So let's look at task 610, alternate multicast music on hold. So in this, our last music on hold task, we're going to look at an alternate method. We're told to provision multicast music on hold for the branch 2 site phones and gateway, stream all multicast RTP traffic using G711. Now wait a minute, I thought we're not allowed to do that over the WAN. However, ensure that no WAN bandwidth is utilized to achieve this. And so therefore, we're not breaking the rule of G729 RTP traffic over the WAN if we're not using any WAN bandwidth. Wait a minute, no WAN bandwidth at all? Well, technically you're allowed to have signaling bandwidth here if you were asked the proctor to clarify on that, but no RTP traffic being used, no RTP bandwidth. So not for G711, not for G729. We're not transcoding, we're not sending any traffic over the WAN. Now, this was multicast. We've never configured or provisioned anything on router 3, branch 2 for multicast. Let's do a show run pipe 2 section multicast or PIM. We have nothing. Okay, show run just to prove that. No multicast anywhere in here. Multicast, no PIM dense mode. Not from the frame circuit, not, oops, not over here to headquarters, no multicast. Okay, so now we do have MGCP configured here. Okay, TCP backhaul, show ISDN status, multiple frames established. We're good, we have MGCP. All right. So what we're actually going to do here is, first of all, let's whiteboard this a little bit. This is going to become important, so we'll leave this up. And actually, let's use our topology. Okay, you can't really see the phones. You will be able to see the PSTN, and that's how we're going to test anyways with the PSTN. We'll test with the phones as well. So, okay. So let's say I've got a phone hanging off this router. I do, it's just underneath. Actually, we're going to test with the PSTN pretty much exclusively. And test in the real lab, but because even with me being across the DM VPN and not setting up multicast routing, it will still make it challenging. So we'll test across the PSTN. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the fact that if, let's say, a phone up here at headquarters, bright color, if this phone happened to be talking a regular RTP stream across the WAN, maybe it was talking to a phone over here, but the phone forwarded that call out to the PSTN. Okay, so after it forwards the call, traffic is coming up and going across the PSTN. So maybe that purple was VoIP traffic, and when it gets here, it converts to blue, which is TDM traffic, okay, out to the PSTN phone. So headquarter phone is talking on a call out to the PSTN, or maybe even the branch 1 phone, whatever. But this phone up here puts the PSTN on hold. Who essentially is he putting on hold, or she? He or she is essentially putting the gateway on hold, the router 3 branch 2 gateway. And so the gateway is the one that needs to stream multicast music on hold. So what happens? The gateway requests music on hold, or actually is informed of music on hold, really, because the headquarter phone puts it on hold. It does its skinny signaling. up to the pub or sub. Whoops. Back. And when it does its skinny signaling, the CUCM server tells the gateway via MGCP, hey, go on hold, and it tells it to stream music on hold from the multicast IP address of 239, and again, this gets into the specific of what were we told here. Well, we were told in the task to make sure it uses G711, and we only have one source file. So what is it going to be? It's going to be the 239.111 IP address. So it says stream 239.1.1.1. Now the router here says, okay, I'll listen, I'll tune in, I'll subscribe to the multicast stream of 239.1.1.1. It doesn't really know or care where that stream is coming from. It knows the codec it should use, G711, and the stream it should listen to, multicast IP 239.1.1.1. Now, call manager, pub, or sub needs to think that it's the one serving it, or else it wouldn't tell it to stream that. It would provide a multicast resources out of service, and multicast out of resources flag, and it would not tell it anything because it would basically say, I'm misconfigured, I cannot tell you to stream this because I can't serve it. So CUCM server thinks it's serving CUCM server thinks, once I get this to work, CUCM server thinks it's streaming 239.1.1.1. However, it's kind of meeting with a dead air here because we're not routing beyond that router. This router certainly doesn't have multicast music routing turn on. In fact, we will just go ahead and turn off on router 1 here. Go ahead and do that real quickly. No, just make sure it's on. Do show run pipe 2 section multicast. On no IP multicast routing. Okay, do show run pipe to section. It's gone. Okay, so at this point, it is definitely not there. So this router allows the stream to kind of come down and stops it dead in its tracks because it's not going to send it out. It would allow it to come in any interface, but it's not going to send it out any other interface, such as across the serial link to the branch 2 router 3 router. Okay? So what do we need to do? Well, we're going to basically play a trick on this router, and we're going to say, stream the music yourself. You stream it yourself, can't people tune into it? You know, phones that are hanging off of you, or the PSTN that happens to just be, as far as you're concerned, kind of another interface, the gateway interface, and this is where the loopback actually does come into play and matter. We sure can. We can tell it to stream multicast music on hold. So this is how we're going to sort of spoof the PSTN, a router into serving music on hold to both phones and to the PSTN. So we've turned off multicast music on hold routing on the corporate headquarter router. We could also, as an alternative, if we still needed to route multicast across our WAN, we just didn't want music on hold, we could go into the server, either one of these servers or both, and change the max hops to like 1. And then it would never go beyond the first router. That would work as well. They don't have to be, has to have a value, but I can just go back and, change this to a value of 1. It would work just fine. I need it for my WAN here to hear it across my DM VPN, but we would not need it in order to. CUCM servers just have to think they're streaming multicast and sending it. A TTL, a time to live value of 1, is good enough, at least as far as they're concerned. Okay, so again, nothing related to multicast or M. Nothing configured. So instead, let's go bring up telephony service. Okay, so in order to stream multicast music on hold, first of all, let's actually end out of everything. We have to have a file. So let's look in our flash. Let's do a show flash pipe to include .au. Now the only problem with .au is dot is a regular expression. So if we wanted to actually match a dot, like a period in a file, for an extension, we have to escape it. Okay, so then we see that we have a number of music files, .au files. One looks suspicious, music on hold. We also have the BACD music on hold if we wanted to use that. But we'll just use the traditional base flash music on hold. Okay, as long as it's in G711, that would be good enough. So we need a skinny server to serve it out of. Call manager fallback, SRST proper, or telephony service, which is CME, and also can be used as a much more powerful SRST. Will work. They're both skinny servers. They're both based on the same code set. They'll work just fine. Now, regardless of whether we have any phones on here or not, we need a maximum DN of 1. I should say a minimum of max DN1 and a minimum of max ePhone 1. I'm not going to get into the CME specifics. That's another module, but we need to have those two commands at a minimum. We need to have an IP source address. And we'll just go ahead and make it our loopback, which is 177.1.254.3 on this particular router. We need to have something that you saw just happen, create CNF files, create configuration files. And that's pretty much all we need other than the music on hold commands. So MOH is a music on hold. And if it's in the base directory of Flash, all we have to do is give the file name, and it does need to be a G711 ALAW or MULAW 8 kilohertz encoded WAV or .au format file. Must be loaded into the router's flash memory. Okay, as soon as we do that, it should load it up. And actually, we could have been doing, probably should have, but at this point, you don't want to know this command. You'd have to know telephony service, shut it down, and reload the router completely. But we could have been doing a debug MOH ePhone, ePhone MOH. Yeah, and we'll still use that for the troubleshooting of seeing the router playing the music, whether or not it's actually playing it to an ePhone. And by the way, no phones are going to be subscribed to this local CME, right? If I do show ePhone, I happen to have a phone here, but it's currently unregistered. It was being used in another test, another example, but it's currently unregistered. Okay, so I have no active phones. It doesn't matter because if you remember from the first week of deep dive modules, we were talking about when is, or ports, and especially I think it was QoS, who is doing the initiation of the communications. So whose port is 2000? Is the phone's port TCP 2000? Or is the CUCM server the destination port of 2000? And it's the CUCM server because it's the phone's responsibility to contact the server. Likewise, with telephony service, CME, the CME router, the SRST router, however you want to look at it, is never contacting the phones to begin with. The phones are initiating the communication with the server. So in other words, the server has to always be listening for that to happen. The server's always on. Because it's always on and always listening, it can do whatever we need it to, like serve music on hold. And now we need to tell it to be multicast music on hold. Okay, so now we need to define a music on hold IP multicast address with which to serve the music from flash. Now we get back into what IP address is the CUCM server thinking that it's telling the phones or gateway to listen on. We're going to make it G711. Let's actually go over and do that first, because first of all we need to describe how we're going to do that. Currently, the pub and the sub server have a device pool for corporate headquarters. And if we look at, we'll bring up the gateway and the phones. So description contains branch 2. Show the endpoints here. They're using the device pool for branch 2. What about the phones? Description contains 2. They all have the device pool for branch 2, so does the gateway, branch 2. Server has corporate headquarters. All right, so let's go ahead and bring up the device pool. Device pool for branch 2 and device pool for corporate headquarters have the region for branch 2 and region for corporate headquarters respectively. So let's go ahead and bring up those entities. The region for branch 2 to corporate headquarters says use G728 ILBC, is what we were told to do in a previous task. Region for corporate headquarters to branch 2, same thing, it's a matrix, right? So that won't work. So what we need to do is we need to actually create a brand new region, and we'll call it G711 Multicast Music on Hold. We could name it maybe even a little more specifically, G711 iOS Multicast Music on Hold. And what we'll do is we'll say to every other region out there, use G711 only. Okay, so between this region and every other region, use G711 as the only audio codec. Now we'll go and we'll create a new device pool. Actually, that's probably not what we want to do. Let me back that up. Region. All right, let's back up and approach this a different way. So we've got a device pool that we've assigned to all corporate headquarter devices. Let's create a new device pool just for music on hold. Device pool underscore music on hold servers. Okay, same group, sub pub for registration. Date time group is fine, corporate headquarters. Region, we're going to put to corporate headquarters for right now, but we're going to change that in just a moment. Media resource group list is going to be corporate headquarters, and we really don't need anything else. Okay, let's save that. And now we're going to go create a new region. And we're going to call this region region underscore music on hold servers. And this needs to be something specific that does indicate the proper codecs that we want to play to the individual sites. So corporate headquarters, we want G711, which is actually the system default. We wouldn't have to do anything, but just in case we modified service parameters or the proctors did, or just to be sure. Branch 1, we want G729. Then branch 2, we actually want G711. Now this isn't going to affect regular calls, because it's only going to be a region assigned only to the device pool, which is only going to be on the music on hold servers. So only between the music on hold servers and branch 2 devices, both gateways and phones, will the G711 protocol, or codec rather, be selected, and that's perfect. That's the only place we want it to be. So we will go back to our device pool, music on hold servers, and assign the region. We had to put something there as a placeholder. Assign the region music on hold servers, and no members, so we can't really reset anything yet. Now we'll go back to our MOH servers. I have to go out and back in or refresh because we've changed things since we first loaded the page. And I'll change the device pool to MOH servers. Save. Go to my sub and do that as well. Save. We'll quickly test everything. Again, we'll reset both of these. Check our RTMT stats. Everything should be resetting here. Along the bottom, we'll see the red note in just a moment. Reset. Might take a little time. Long. There we go. Okay. Our available devices are back for unicast and multicast. Okay, so the servers have reset. Both be registered with the stub. They are. So now we know that G711 is what's going to be chosen. So 239.111 is going to be the IP address that we want to use here. So that's what we'll paste in. Now, why 239.111? What about the, we have a pub at 239.111 and then a sub at 239.121. Well, because of the order. If the other order, if it were ordered the other way, then we would need 239.121 for the base multicast IP range. And if they were both in the same media resource group, it would be random, and we wouldn't be able to guarantee the results every time. Now we needed to find the port. Remember, the port we didn't change. So we incremented on IP address, not on port. So the port is 16.384. We can just copy this. Then we have to specify a route command. This will explicitly route traffic for multicast music on hold. The default is to use the source address. Well, the source address is loopback. That might be fine for PSTN traffic, but not for local phones. So what do we know what to put here? Well, let's do a do show IP interface brief and pipe to exclude unassigned. Get IPs with assigned IPs or interfaces with assigned IPs. So we want the .11, which goes out to the voice subnet, voice VLAN. Okay, so let's bring this command back up. Multicast MOH 239.111 port 16.384 route to, and these are the IP addresses rather than the interface names, which I always thought was strange. So route to that IP address, which represents this interface, and route to the loopback. Okay, that is for the PSTN. Here's where we do need this. Okay. Notice what just happened. I was doing a debug ephone MOH, and the MOH file all of a sudden loads into the buffer. We find that the codec media payload G711 here, and it's now serving out the fast Ethernet 00.11 subnet and the loopback 0. Okay. We did not configure IP multicast routing. Show run pipe 2 section multicast or PIM. The only thing we have is the fact that we are a source of a multicast. So again, let's just do show run pipe to section telephony. Have a few other things in here. But what we're mainly concerned with is multicast, or sorry, music on hold, file name, multicast music on hold, and the route and interface IPs, base IP address, max ePhones and max DN1, create CNF files, and the IP source address. Okay, so at this point, as long as the phones instruct each other or the gateway to use multicast, we can tell that by RTMT, for the pub, as long as they instruct multicast for the pub at G711, and the router should spoof that traffic and we'll see it there. Again, we still need a CCM manager music on hold command, so let's just check to make sure include CCM manager. Fell today. Okay, we do have CCM manager music on hold. We can also do a show CCM manager music on hold in order to see current active multicast sessions are 0. And we will be able to see that information once it begins streaming. Notice it just got to the end, read end of file. Okay, it's streaming, and multicast music does this. Unicast will start over for each new request, but multicast is going to essentially always be streaming this traffic out, whether it's out of the routers or out of the CUCM servers. And so when you join in to wherever the music on hold file is already at. Okay, and the reason we don't need multicast routing here is because this router is the source. It's not routing in one interface and out another. It is the source. Okay, so let's at this point bring up the phones again. And let's just bring up James Ford over at branch 2. First of all, because I don't have this set up multicast routing across the WAN, and I actually am across the WAN, I won't hear it here locally unless I do the same thing I told you as a student remotely rack renting to do, which is send it out to the PSTN. So let's call from 3002 out to 112. Phone is actually in Amsterdam. It's calling out the PSTN. I'm going to go ahead and mute that. I'll go off hook, mute that. Now I'm connected. And behind me, we're going to see the magic happen here a little bit. We can see that we are going out this branch 2 gateway. We're connected to the PSTN. So now I'll go ahead and put this on hold, and I hear beep, beep, beep. Okay? So I've clearly not done something right so far. Whoops. We heard beep, beep, beep. So what was the problem? Beep, beep, beep is an indication of a server configuration error, right? So what happened? Let's see. Do we have out of resources on either of these? Out of resources? Nope. Actually, maybe it wasn't there long enough. Let's put it back on hold. Troubleshooting here. Make sure these are set to a polling rate of 5. Yep. Okay, out of resources. We still don't see it up. 1 or anything. Okay. Let's go check our configuration. Look at the audio source. That was fixed. Whoops. So music on hold audio source. Check through everything. Allow multicast is checked. Music on hold server, pub, and sub both have 239.111, or both have enable multicast with 10. Actually, we should only out sub. I think I know what it is. The multicast media resource group. We've got the multicast group for pub and for sub. What about the multicast resource group list for branch 2? It has the multicast music on hold pub and sub MRGs, not the unicast. Is it assigned to everything? So the MRGL for branch 2 devices, let's go check the device pool. Branch 2. And MRGL for branch 2 devices is there. Okay, the region is branch 2. Go back and check the music on hold servers just to verify that they have, yep, the device pool for MOH servers. Let's go check that device pool. It has the region for MOH servers. Let's check that region. To branch 1, it has G729. To headquarters, it has G711. And to branch 2, it has G711. Okay, so the matrix between it and branch 2 should be good. Let's verify that the gateway for branch 2 has the device pool. Looks like it does. Let's go ahead and reset this gateway. Actually, let's just go ahead and we shouldn't have to do this, but let's just go ahead and hard code that MRGL directly to the gateway. Saved it, and we will reset it. Go over to the gateway and do a config T, no MGCP, MGCP. Okay, do show CCM manager, back registered, backhauled properly, do show ISDN status, got multiple frames established. Show run pipe to section telephony server. Okay, we've got our multicast music on hold statement out to the right interfaces. I believe we had CCM manager music on hold already. Is there anything else we need to check? I think we just did this. I don't remember. Let's just reset these two MOH servers. And the phone. Now that's you. Okay. Database loses connection. Good. Regains connection. We've got resources available for unicast and multicast. Okay. Looks like everything should be good. Try this call again. Out to the PSTN. And there we go. Now we're hearing music on hold. Undebug all. Actually, let's end. And let's do a show CCM manager, music on hold. And here we see 239.111, port 16384, G711 ULAW, incoming interface loopback 0. Now let's actually end this call. Okay, let's resume. Let's end the call. And first of all, you could hear the audible difference. And just to make sure that it was not this gateway choosing the specific MRGL here, I'm going to take this back off because it should choose and use the device pool MRGL. I think it was just actually the reset of the gateway that did it. I think since we had made changes to the MOH servers and MRGs, we had not reset the gateway. So I've saved it after I took the MRGL specifically off the gateway and I'm letting it use the device pool one. Reset it. Again, we'll go over to the gateway and do no MGCP, MGCP. Manager, make sure it's registered to .20. Okay. So show CCM manager music on hold. Current active multicast sessions are 0. So now we will start the call again. Redial. Actually, let's do a debug ISDN Q931. Prove that it is going out that proper gateway. Okay. And the other side will answer. And we'll go mute on both sides. Got the call nailed up. Show voice call status. Okay, dial peer 00 because it's MGCP. We'll go on hold. Show CCM manager, music on hold. We've got the 239.111, so it's still working. It wasn't applying it directly to the gateway. It was just resetting the gateway that did it. Probably a good engineering thing not to change two things at once, but sometimes it makes testing go faster. We are going out the loopback. And we're actually just going to let it sit here for a while I ask if anyone has any questions, because I want us to run into an issue. Before we actually run into this issue, does anyone have any questions? Seeing as how this is the last task of the day as well. Anything about the whole day? Or anything about this particular spoofing from the router? Okay, we're not using the WAN at all for this, but CUCM does think that it's serving one multicast session. Coming straight from the flash. Any questions at all? If I don't have any questions, it could be a long time that we're waiting for this music. However, in real life, someone could be on music on hold, or be on hold and be listening to music on hold for a while. And what we wouldn't want to happen is all of a sudden, middle of nowhere, them to get cut off. The call just to drop. Why would the call just drop? To show run pipe to section MGCP. Okay, good, I don't have this turned off yet. Call might just drop. I'm trying to kind of fill in time until the call eventually does drop. Call might just drop. There we go. Because of something called RTCP. We mentioned this earlier. RTP, the real-time protocol, has a companion, RTCP, the real-time control protocol. So the RTCP protocol sits there and monitors for dead air. Something that, if there's silence, and RTCP doesn't work very well with VAD, obviously, because VAD is about silence. But RTCP makes sure, hey, I just need to make sure everyone's still talking, amongst other things, but controlling the RTP stream. If all of a sudden it doesn't hear anything, then it thinks people forgot to hang up the call properly. Now, why might that happen in this scenario? Well, if the router is streaming the music on hold, and it's not actually coming across the MGCP link, the WAN link, and RTCP is turned on by default for MGCP, then there's no bandwidth coming across the WAN. There's no RTP stream at all. The RTP stream has been cut. So because of that, it could very well think, because the music isn't coming from the CUCM server but being streamed locally, that the RTP media path was essentially torn down, but they forgot to inform call signaling, forgot to inform MGCP to tear the PRI down. So it goes ahead and does it for you. So what we want is no MGCP, and we have no MGCP timer, receive RTCP, okay, just enter. So we've turned off the timer for MGCP for receive traffic for RTCP. Now, and I won't bore you with the music going on forever, but now the music will stream as much as we'd want it to, and RTCP won't tear that traffic down. Okay, and then just to make sure that with our changes to regions and device pool that everything else still works, let's go back and make the tests from test music on hold calls for headquarters and for branch 1 as well. Test G711 multicast to headquarters proper, and unicast G729 with transcoder to branch 1. And again, these are the type things that people, candidates forget or fail to think to do in the lab, is they say, well, maybe I went ahead and tested task 8, music on hold, traditional multicast to corporate headquarter, and then I tested 9, unicast to branch 1 after I did it, and then I tested 10. So everything should work. Well, what if something that you did to 10, like creating a new region and a new device pool for your music on hold servers, what if that broke something in task 6.8 or 6.9? These are things we need to go back and test again in order to be certain. Okay, so let's bring up our TMT, bring up our phones, call from Jack over to Hurley. Hook, and tell one to hold the other. Up, which up. Okay. Now actually we turned off multicast routing on the headquarter router to prove that we didn't need it. Okay, so I need to actually turn that back on in order to get this to work. There we go. We didn't need to turn it off for all of our tasks, but we did it just to prove that branch 1. So we see that we're streaming multicast music on hold from the pub through our TMT. We obviously hear it, so everything's good there. Go ahead and hang that call up. We will place a call over to 2001. 2001 will go off hook, and we'll put branch 1 on hold. That volume, almost all the way down. Check our TMT. Multicast is at nothing. Unicast is for the pub set to 1. So our regions that we set up worked for what we wanted to and didn't inadvertently cause any other problems. So question from David, could we take PIM on the serial interface to branch 2? Could you take PIM off the serial interface to branch 2 to turn off multicast routing? Sure. Absolutely. And I don't think we actually have it on. You know what? We probably do. Nope. The branch 2, we do not have it on.